New quads always stay back. Yep, something ain't right. And that is why you stand back whenever you test fly and line of sight a new quad. Hey everyone, welcome back. Today is my build overview for the Flynoceros Cerberus V3. I ended up going with the Brother Hobby, what were they? 2207, 2400 kV. I didn't want something super big. Again, I said I was running it on 4S. I just thought these were really cool. The light will even get to where it shows you the coloring on it and matches the rest of the quad. Had a couple guys ask about this covering. If you want to know where to get it, leave me a comment and I'll get back to you. It's not very expensive. You get like 10 foot for $3 or $4. And they have every color you can possibly imagine. If you want to go look for it yourself, use 1/8 inch because it expands plenty big enough to wrap the wires. You can see all the 3D printed stuff that I've done. One odd thing that I did, if you watch the build video or the frame build video, the frame, this bottom plate is countersunk to hold your lock nuts in them. Then you just run your screws down through the top. But I was trying to figure out a way to hold this battery plate on there, and so these are actually, they're lock nuts too, but they have the flange on the bottom of them. So I just flipped them over and put them upside down and ran the screws through and did them on the front and the back. Holds that on there just fine. I mean, it's not like there's going to be any pressure on it, pulling on it or anything. It's just so the battery doesn't slide or anything. So that worked out well. Switched to a different camera. It's still a Fox Air, but this is the Falcor, the new Falcor Mini. I don't know why the first camera I put in it, which was the Predator V4, it worked fine during testing and all that, and then it turned to black and white and I couldn't get it to come back to color, so I just swapped it out. It may be a simple fix, I just didn't mess with it anymore. Using TBS for the receiver and for the VTX, which is up here underneath this. I use the Nano on all of mine, and so, but interesting, this antenna mount for the TBS for the Immortal is actually from Catalyst Machine Works, and it fits the arm perfect. So that won't ever come off, and with the battery on it, you know, underneath, when you land, it's not going to touch, so that worked out well. I did use a capacitor on this one. I typically don't, but trying to get this in view, I pushed it up through here and soldered it to the bottom side of the ESC, so it's completely out of the way. It doesn't bother anything, and that's, most of us, that's our problem with doing it that way, is that, you know, it's always in the way. So in this case, it worked out really well putting it there. I mounted the Nano right up in here behind the camera and just double-sided taped it down to the front plate, front top plate. Stacked my wires just to make it look nice, but I'm running the new Cricket version of the Flightone Revolt OSD V2, I believe, which is kind of cool because it's actually purple, so that worked out perfect. the ESC is a Racer Star 45 amp BL Heli 32. So really simple to wire up to the board. However, if you think about using one of these, it does not have current output or telemetry on it. So if you really want that, that's not the ESC to go with. Really, that's pretty much it. Using the True RC Odin, and I run left hand. I've had really good luck with these. For as small as they are, I've gotten really good reception out of them, whereas the Lumineer Axes, I have had horrible luck with them, and I don't know why. Maybe I'm doing something wrong, but I just have a really horrible time getting any kind of reception once I'm, out of ways. So, and I haven't really had that problem with these. So that's why I did that. So yeah, part of this review is that, for anybody who doesn't know, Flightone has come out with a new firmware. If you go to their YouTube channel, you can look into it. They've always had Flightone. Well, apparently their developers and code people decided that they were going to start from scratch with a whole new proprietary, at least for now, firmware. And it'll, like I said, it's proprietary. It's only going to work on any of their OSD boards, and it's called FalcoX. So they started from scratch. They put this all together, and you still need to use the Flightone configurator on your computer to actually flash it. And of course, it's still got just a micro USB, but you flash that firmware onto here, and it disclosure, it's in beta right now, but you can get it if you want to try it, and that's what I flashed on this. So, but yeah, you load the firmware on here like you would with BL Heli or anything else. You flash the firmware, but that's it. You're done with your computer at that point. And I'm guessing that once it gets away from the beta version, you'll be able to buy these boards with it already on there, which means you never need a computer for it at all, which is really cool. What happens is in the firmware is all your setup stuff. And so you plug it in when you're ready, have your transmitter sitting there with you, but don't turn it on yet. Get your goggles out or a monitor, and when you plug in the battery, your OSD comes up, and all of your setup is done through the OSD. Very, very cool. Very simple to change your profiles. They have a bunch of them, like Blackbird has, I think, 2 different profiles on there. And then you have custom and default, and there was a couple other profiles from other pilots on there. There's a race one on there. So you can flip through those, and it's really fast to if you go fly it and you go, oh, I hate that, just land it wherever and get into the OSD with your sticks, and you can change your profile. Really, really simple. So it's a setup where the very first one reads across the screen that says looking for receiver, or searching for radio. That's what it is. And so at that point you turn your radio on and let it find your radio, and then it walks you through everything. It checks to make sure all your motors are working and that they're in the right place. It goes through each motor individually, and then it goes back through them again and make sure that they're all turning the right way. If they're not, it gives you a chance to change it, and no more going into BL Heli at all, other than you need to make sure that your ESC, if you're using BL Heli, whether it's BL Heli S or 32, has the latest firmware on it. And there's a way to do pass-through with one of their boards, or you could use a Betaflight board or whatever, and update it before you install everything. But yeah, so once you have the firmware updated on your ESC, which hopefully if you're buying a brand new ESC, it's already got the latest firmware, which is 32.6, and then you just throw it together and it'll work. But yeah, it helps you set up your switches, set up your OSD screen where you want what, and there's tons of spots on the OSD, on the screen. They're like little squares, and so you move the arrow around, and then you with your roll, and then you use the other stick, I believe is what it was, to choose what goes in that square. So lots and lots of features. So that's what I put on this, because I wanted to give it a try. And all I've done with this was, because I'm in a truck stop and I don't trust, well, it's windy and drizzly rain, and so all I did was make sure it got off the ground and it turned and all that, and that's all I did. So I'm hoping tomorrow afternoon I can do the real maiden on it. But it does fly, and seemed to hover really well. I didn't see any issues, no twitching or anything like that, but it's really windy, so it kept drifting around. But so everything works the way it's supposed to at the moment. Beyond that, I will do, like I said, it may not be tomorrow, whatever it is, I'll add the maiden flight to the end of this video. Probably do another line of sight that's a little bit longer than what I did tonight. And I checked the motors when it landed, and they were just barely warm. And I'm on the default tune. Haven't messed with anything. We'll see how it does. But get a little more hover time and moving it around and stuff like that, and see how it does, and then maybe change it. But then I'll do out there in the field, I'll do some real ripping, because I said this before, this is meant as a race frame. Now, I didn't necessarily set it up as a race frame. If you guys haven't seen these props, these are the Gemfan Hurricanes, and I think they were Schizo's version, the Galaxy, which just went with the build. So, and they're actually good props. I run them on a couple of my quads. They are, where's that number? They're 50. Geez, I can't even see that. I think they're 5049s or 5149s. That's what it was, I believe. But anyway, let me grab the scale. There was two things that I forgot to do. Well, really only one thing. In the last video, the frame build and the overview of that, I gave you a lightweight. So there it is with everything except the battery, 362 grams. This 1500 4S. So I would say your all up weight's going to be 550 grams, which seems pretty heavy for a race quad. But this battery's heavy compared to some of the other 4S 1500s I've got. So that was one thing. The other thing I forgot was to give you, and I suppose you could look it up on the website, but let's see what we get. Your footprint here. 230 millimeter. And this is, I believe this is a True X. So you're looking at 160 millimeters. And This one's going to be tough because that motor, or the antenna. Yeah, 160, 160, 160. Yeah, so it's a True X frame. So that got you what I missed in the other one with the arm lengths and so on. But that's it. So enjoy the video, and I'm sure I'll talk in that too. So see you in the video, or the flight video. So this is what I was talking about with the OSD screen. It'll pop up here in just a second. I decided to go into it, and you can see this is the way you get into all your profiles, your to change your PIDs. Everything is done this way. What I'm actually doing is going through different profiles that are already saved in the firmware, which you can see the PIDs changing as I scroll through them. And your pitch stick is what moves you up and down. And then you use your right yaw or left yaw to move through the different screens. So you've got a PIDs profile and a rates profile as well. There's all the other stuff you can change. If you're running TBS products or immersion RC, tramp, you can mess with all that stuff as well. So this is just DVR so that I could share what it looks like while you're changing stuff. And so this was the very first flight. I was actually really impressed with the flight, the way it was. It was very smooth. Went with Wild Willie's rates, and I really like them. You can see in the video it's really smooth, and I am not a very experienced pilot. I've only been flying for maybe 2.5, 3 months, and only about I'm lucky if I average about 10 minutes a day, about every 3 days. So on all my other quads, I'm running Betaflight, and so the video, it's not as smooth as this. So I was really happy with this. So at this point, this is just another DVR. I had changed to a different profile, which is a lot touchier. Um, just playing with them, seeing how different ones flew. Um, this one was way too touchy. I didn't really care for it. Um, but that's the cool thing about the way that they've designed FalcoX. There you can see how fast I was moving. I was flying down through there. Um, but they've got all this stuff pre-saved by pilots that have been using this stuff, or this particular program, for quite a while now. And so they've figured out how to create their rates. and that helps anyone who's going to try this software or firmware to give a starting point for it, and then you can adjust it a little bit off of that. Just write down the rates that were in that profile, and then you can change it to, a little bit here and there, and tune it in for yourself. And I think that will go faster. Well, I know it'll go a lot faster than it does with Betaflight. Um, I never did totally like the way that they had things going with Betaflight, but that's what we had. So I was starting to learn it, but this is a lot easier, and I'm saying that as basically a novice. So my final thoughts on the Cerberus, and unfortunately this kind of turned into a Betaflight or FalcoX discussion, I guess. Um, the Cerberus is a great frame. I actually did crash it a lot today, playing around with different tunes and stuff, and they get pretty wild. Schizo's on there. Like I said, Blackhawk FPV, and they like their stuff really touchy. So um, again, I crashed a lot today. There was zero damage to the quad itself or electronics or anything like that. I had to put a couple sets of props on it though. But the combination of the two really made for a really enjoyable flying experience today. In the end, I stuck with the low default or low power default, and then Wild Willie's. Yeah, that didn't work. Wild Willie's rate. So, and I think that's where I'm going to stay. I'll maybe adjust a little bit as time goes by. But either way, the frame is awesome. Held up really well. And then if you're interested in the FalcoX, look into it. Again, you have to go with their board. But so that's all I've got to say for this time. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it was helpful. Um, Please leave comments, questions, stuff like that. I'll get back to you. Lets me know what I'm doing right or wrong. So until next time, take care, be safe in the air and on the road. Bye.